Hi everyone, it's Michael from Territory Technology again. Today I want to talk to you about data loss and backup. All right, so we've talked about protection, we've talked about security, we've talked about how to protect yourself, but what happens in the event that you do actually get hacked, something bad does happen and your data is deleted, lost. There's been some examples over the last couple of years where organisations have spent squillions of dollars on protection, systems to stop hacks from happening, all sorts of platforms that have been put in place to ensure that they never get hacked. Unfortunately, no offence to people, but when people are involved, it's going to happen. So these particular examples, and there was a really good one, when I say good, it was not a good outcome. The National Health System in the UK spent millions and millions of dollars on protection, firewalls, cyber protection, upgrades, PC protection, you name it, they had it, except for one poor little Windows XP machine that was sitting in a corner somewhere that got hacked and essentially took down and allowed hackers to ransom all of the information, all the data in the NHS system. They encrypted it, sent them a ransom letter and said, here you go, we've locked up all your data, we want whatever it was, millions of pounds to get it back. And with all this money that they'd spent on protection, they hadn't really spent too much or even considered too much about backup and recovery. And unfortunately, that didn't end up too well for them. So a well-rounded solution should have a backup and recovery platform and a policy around how it's going to happen. And this extends from the information that's on your mobile phone all the way through to your corporate network, home PC, wherever you've got information stored that'll cause you some problems if you can't get it back. And the best way to have a backup is to have something that is not physically connected to your computer all the time. By all means, if it's a home PC, do a backup onto an external hard drive, do it once a week, whatever suits depending on how often you're modifying the data, and then unplug the drive and put it back in the cupboard. Do not leave the drive connected. As I've mentioned previously, when hackers are gaining access to these systems, they'll sit in there for a little while. They'll monitor what's going on. They'll know exactly how you're doing things, and then they'll make sure that the first thing that they do is encrypt or delete all your backups so that you can't recover. They encrypt your data. They send you a ransom. They essentially say, we've already deleted all your data. You're not going to be able to recover. Send us money. Similar with mobile phones, you've got a whole heap of information on your mobile. You've got all your bank account details, you've got all your email accounts, you've got a whole heap of photos that you might have taken, you've got all these logins. Most of the platforms, being Apple and Android, have the ability to back up. So if it's an Apple, use the automatic backup feature through iCloud. And even if you're not connecting to a Wi-Fi network, just use your 4G or your mobile data service once every now and then to push it back up across to the iCloud. Similar with Android, if it's a Google phone, like a Pixel, you can use the Google Drive to have a subscription. I think they give you a subscription up to a couple of gig or maybe 5 gig for free. Otherwise, you can connect a OneDrive service to it to back up your data into OneDrive. If it's a Samsung phone or a Samsung branded phone, then Samsung also provide access into a Samsung cloud that allows you to do backups, and that'll typically back up all the content, your photos, a lot of your accounts, so that if you do have to get a new phone or the phone is completely erased, that you can recover that information as long as you've got access to those accounts and remember your passwords. If it's a corporate network, the backup strategy should be that you've got on-premise backups. You've got stuff locally that you can recover from quickly, and you've got off-premise cloud-based backups or backups to another location, which is what we call air-gapped. Again, if the hacker can access your corporate network, they can look around and see exactly what's connected. If you've got a connection to another backup platform that's offsite and it uses different credentials and it's not actually browsable from your local network, then there's a fair chance that they're not going to either see it or they're not going to be able to access it to corrupt it in the first place. That's an extremely important requirement, and if you're going through things like Essential 8 certification or any cyber compliance certification, air-gapped backups and encrypted backups are an essential part of that certification. Platforms like Veeam, which is a backup software platform, also have mechanisms where they can identify a mass file change and place a sandbox around that and stop that from happening. So if they're starting to see that someone's trying to access the backups and modify the backups, essentially encrypt the backups, platforms such as I said, Veeam can stop that from happening. Again, it's just another mechanism to try and provide protection to your data, your systems, because not only is it the loss of data, which of course now comes with federal government fines if any of that information is actually leaked out into the public domain, especially if there's any private or personal information in there. But secondly, it's the recovery time. How long will it take for you to get your systems back online? How much is that going to cost in loss of productivity? And how much reputational damage will that do to your organization? So don't just spend all your money on protection. Make sure that you've got recovery and mitigation strategy in place to ensure that you can get the data back up, you can get the systems up and running again, and you don't have to be paying these ransoms or being extorted. You can be essentially back up and running the next day with little to no impost to the business. Thanks for joining me. Hopefully you got some information out of this that is useful and you got some takeaways from it. Again, it's designed so that you can pick up a few tips without having to read War and Peace. Feel free to drop by again. Have a great day.